Hello, welcome. My name is Jennifer Gunther, and I am the director of the Art Center Gallery at Delaware State University. And I'm pleased today to have with me 4 members of the Points of Juxtaposition artist group. Currently on display in the Art Center Gallery is the Points of Juxtaposition exhibition. And while that will soon conclude, we wanted to have an opportunity to have a Q&A with the artist, and Delaware State University Art Center Gallery interns came up with a list of questions that they were curious to ask the artist about. And so we're just going to jump into it. This is going to be rather informal. I'm going to read the question, and then I'm hoping whoever would like to answer can just begin. So the first question: what influence do you think or hope your work has on the Black art community? How do you think your art helps the Black community with identity and continuation in the arts?
I can jump in.
Okay.
Well, one thing is, my name is artist Alexander Gamble. One answer would be, it's great to see an artist that represents you in a way that is a tasteful and tactful way. I believe that directly combats some of the misinformation that this society has been fed. So each thing that we do impacts someone else, and the way we impact them could be positive or negative. So we try to keep a very positive show.
I think that I would like to add to that. Again, my name is Kenny Jones, and I'm a very proud member of this group. For me, as I create, as I develop a concept and begin to put together a process, I never really think about, in most of the work, of how this is going to impact the Black community. As an artist, I want to impact the world. I want to impact everyone, regardless of the color of skin, regardless of ethnicity. I want my work to be embraced by everyone. But because I do try to champion Black imagery, then of course, that's going to bring a sense of pride. As we know that in this world that we live in, many times, Black images are portrayed negatively, both in the media, print media, visual media. And so as artists who are very proud to be a part of our heritage and a part of the Black community, we definitely want to put out positive messages, as Alex said, and really in images that are going to uplift and that are going to build or going to shed light to something that may be going on in the community. For me, first and foremost, I want my work to touch the world.
Yeah, right on.
And I also think it does impact the African-American community, because our voices are speaking truth to what we see. So we're basically speaking truth to power. And it's hard growing up not seeing images reflective of yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think that's another reason why we do the work we do, is because we want to have that representation in our community of African-American people and life situations that we go through. Like I said before, in a video before, is that I grew up in the 60s. So my whole format, I guess, has been sculpted with that 60s idea of not being seen, not being heard, not being spoken to, walking down the sidewalk and being invisible. And so I want my artwork to be reflective of the struggles we've gone through, but then the championing times that we've also gone through. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of times I will paint situations of people overcoming adversity. And you know, I think that's one thing that we all do.
Powerful.
Okay, my work is again, I was in the era of the Black revolutionaries and all these things. But as the other guy said, we still worry about our professionalism. And all of us are teachers, so we're trying to make a good representation for everybody. But because people don't see, Black folks don't see us a lot of times, and they're surprised, and at the same time, they are so proud of what we do. We get a lot of great feedback from people saying, "Oh, you're a teacher. Oh my God. Oh." And you're saying, "Well, I didn't know I was setting that much of an example." But when we went to Delaware State, those teachers there would say, "Look, you are representing, you are representing us, and you're representing the Black community, and you have to do the job not 100%, but 250% better." So that's kind of the impact that we had. So we hope to try to get the same impact on the community.
Wonderful. Next question. Is there a part of your art process that is unique or singular to you? And how did you develop this process?
My process is because we're school teachers, we are very creative. We come up with a lot of things that I don't even know where they come from. My procedure a lot of times is somebody gives me some paper and there's a design or something on the paper. I don't know where it comes from. You know, sometimes when me and Mike and CW or some of the guys are out and we're looking around and I see this picture of something on a tree or on a wall. So my designs, I don't know, they just come.
Well, I'm going to chime in here. This is Mike. Tony, when we're always together, Tony's always got white paper. And he'll hand me the white sheet of paper and he'll say, make about 10, 12 lines on this piece of paper, just any kind of line. And I'll give them back to him. And the next time I see Tony, he says, you remember that drawing you did, or that scribble you did, I should say. And he's created a piece of artwork from my scribbles. So that's one unique thing to him. I would also like to say one thing about Carl Williams, who is not here. And his uniqueness is, I have never seen anybody use hornet's nest. Hornet's nest is made out of paper made by wasp. And he will take hornet's nest apart, flatten it out, and then he takes the pieces and he creates pieces of artwork from it. So it's a uniqueness of Carl. I think my uniqueness right now is that I'm using photography, painting, printmaking together. Those are the three disciplines I like using. So a few of my pieces have actually been from photograph, painting, and even writing poetry. I like to write poetry, and so I also illustrate my pieces with my poems.
Mm-hmm. Kenny or Alex?
Go ahead, Kenny.
Kenny, we can't hear you.
You're on mute.
Kenny, you're on
Hey,
mute.
Kenny, you're mute.
Let me go. My students are beginning to walk in now. So
Oh,
I've got to
Okay.
say goodbye. But I will say this, that there are two things I've developed recently. One is unique to me. It's a process called Digigrams, I call them, where I take photograms. I'm a photography teacher that my students and I create using old analog techniques. And then what we do is we bring them into a digital format and we create something brand new out of the wet process. We create something new that's dry. Also, there's something I've developed that I call, of course, surrealism is not new, but I call it spiritual surrealism, where I look to my spirituality and I begin to layer images as a pure surrealist would. And so that's one of the ways in which I think that those things are very unique to what it is that I do. And I've developed those over time. And one of the things that Mike Morris will do is a lot of times he will simply say, what else can you do with that? He'll always challenge you to move beyond where you are. What else can that become? What else can that be? Hey, well, if we did this to it, And so he's always pushing the envelope there. I love that about Mike Morris. But hey, listen, I've got to run. The job calls.
Thank you,
All right.
Kenny.
All right,
Nice to
Kenny.
see you,
All right,
Kenny.
Kenny.
Bye, Kenny.
Keep them straight.
All right, we have, as Kenny leaves us, we have another person, another Points of Juxtaposition artist joining us. Ernie Satchel is logging in to our meeting. While we wait for Ernie to join us, Alex, do you have something to contribute to that last question?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I try to, there are two things. One is my work is very, very spiritual. And all of my work comes from God. And the great thing about the time that we're in right now is that we have so many ways to explore different medium and, both electronic and the traditional. So some of the traditional ways have not even been tapped into, although we're taught that they've been all explored. There's a lot that goes with it that involves history, or it's finished in my mind, and sometimes that becomes a very destructive kind of thing. So by the time a person sees a piece of artwork, and I've pushed it and pushed it and pushed it, and then I've added the modern aspects of it. So it's just a super exciting process, even sometimes to the destruction of certain pieces.
You might have missed a little bit. I'm either I am or Alex is having a little there is Mr. Satchel, a little internet connection issues. Mr. Satchel, welcome, Ernie Satchel.
Thank you.
We're just going through questions, and I'm about to state another question from DSU students. And I guess as we've sort of figured out, they're in a very random order as well. This is a similar question to the one we just had, but I'm still going to ask it. And if anyone has anything to contribute, how did you come up, or how do you come up with concepts for your art? I know Tony already talked about that sort of a little bit about the process, but I think they're asking more about particular concepts or series or certain specific art products. Anybody want to take that question?
I'll speak to that. The first important part of any, I think, art creation, and this is something I think we all taught our students, was to create thumbnails. And a lot of times when you do thumbnails as working artists, you end up with 25, 30 thumbnails, because you start a thumbnail and then something else sparks another idea of maybe if I change this and put it here or put it there. And so you do another thumbnail, and then another thumbnail, and those thumbnails evolve into a sketch. And then from that sketch, you create your piece of artwork. Now, because you create a sketch doesn't mean that's set in stone. That's just your jumping off point. That's your beginning to put brushstrokes to canvas or pencil to paper, or as Mr. Satchel would do, as he starts a piece of pottery. I'm quite sure he has an idea in his head, but it evolves as he creates that piece of artwork. The other thing, I think we had a little video chat at the opening with some of your students, was I also do what's called mind mapping, where I will write down an idea for a painting, and then like the spokes of a wheel, I start placing words out beyond that idea. And then from those spokes come other spokes, almost like a tree branch, where you have a branch, you have the branchlets, and then you have the smaller branches. And then I have a whole lot more information that when I start creating my thumbnails or I start creating my sketch, I have a lot more information that I can draw from to put in that piece of artwork.
Anyone else want to talk about that? Mr. Satchel, I'm going to call you out.
In my case, yeah, when One of the ways I develop ideas is I like to do it when I have quiet time. When the radio, the TV is off, not talking to anyone. And that usually comes when I'm in bed. And I'll lay in bed before I go to sleep, and I just do the quiet time. I do a lot of thinking. All kinds of things will run through my head. And the next morning, I'll get up and I'll make some loose sketches, nothing in detail, some loose sketches, and I'll just put them aside, and eventually I'll come back to them, and then I'll start developing those things. When I do sculpture or pottery, I usually will start out with a general idea of what I want to do, and I'll do the refinements on the wheel or in the sculpture itself. But I don't do detail planning before I get started. I like to have that flexibility to go in and do my own thing.
I think that's interesting. I think as educators, we, and that journaling process, that idea notebook, and that's, I find myself encouraging that with my students, and it sounds like you do the same sort of reflection to generate ideas and inspiration.
Yeah, I just like to incubate those ideas.
Oh, incubate. That's a really good, I like that. Mike's joining us in person now. We got that worked out.
Hey.
So this might apply to some of you, and there was various versions of this question, this next question I'm going to ask. And so we can break it down a little bit if necessary. Most of my interns are seniors, so they're very focused on what's called their capstone presentation. So that is the body of work you present your final semester here at Delaware State University, your capstone exhibition. In your time at Delaware State University, how did your art grow, evolve, and how useful did you find your bachelor's of arts degree in studio arts? How useful was the senior capstone process? And then did you have a capstone process? I'm not sure what the curriculum was like back then. And if you did, what was the focus of your senior capstone, if you can recall that experience? So I guess they're curious about what your culmination to your undergraduate career was like, you know, and what your work was at that point. And was that a valuable experience going through preparing that final body of work?
Yes, ours was, we didn't have a capstone, we had student teaching. Student teaching was a final, and a lot of folks found out at the end, I'm not no teacher. They went all the way through. Senior projects is something that we used to do. Delaware had that requirement that seniors had different subject matter that they were in. So I used to have Mike and CW and some of the guys come down, and they would be evaluators and evaluate their final senior capstone, like you call it. The experience of student teaching was greater than being in the classroom and getting all that information. Because I can remember one time we went to Dover High School. We took a visit, and we had just learned some educational courses about pre-schematic, schematic stage, what they're in the first. And we sat there and we looked and we figured, well, we had some knowledge. And we asked the teacher, what stage are they in? Pre-schematic stage or whatever. And he looked at us like, what is wrong with you? So it was different, but ours was student teaching. And I thought that was the greatest thing because it prepared me for what was coming.
So if it makes you feel better, I still teach Victor Lowenfeld's stages of creative development.
Mm.
And I value that. Anyone else want to talk about their undergraduate work or creating a body of work, or
I do.
Even in graduate school, if that?
Yeah, my undergrad experience, I think the way it did me most was I met people from all over the world. So
Mm.
a lot of my friends were from Africa, and so y- you get to see like the different parts of Africa and all the different cultures within, and the work ethic was different for each set of people. And I met a lot of girls at Dell State, and their work ethic was different than the guys at Dell State.
Mm.
So just having that experience, even my study groups, we had study groups. Um, they're just the way they would take notes from people in the different departments, the way you take notes. I've used it in the business world quite a bit, because I am in the commercial end as well as teaching. So I started out as a commercial artist, and just being able to see things from a different person's point of view, that's invaluable to me because I'm always looking to serve my client. So when I went into teaching, I was always looking to serve my student, and I always looked at them as if they were a client. So I'm constantly trying to better myself, um, keep new ideas, and stay refreshed and new within the field.
Mhm.
So it's a great experience. Delaware State's a great experience.
And taking advantage of those experiences, those opportunities that are presented to you.
Right, right. Global experience.
Mhm. I'm going to move on to the next question. What kept you going? What was your motivation, inspiration, drive to continue along the artist path? What can you say to aspiring artists who might be waning in and out of love with creating art?
I'll take this one. I started a program called the Visual Performing Arts Program, and we had to interview high school students that wanted to get into this program. And it was basically an artist prep program to get students to build a portfolio, like a capstone, to get into college. And the first question I would always ask these young artists was, if you woke up tomorrow and you had no hands, would you still create artwork? And if you're the type of person that you cannot go more than 4 days without putting something down on a piece of paper, whether it's a sketch, a thumbnail, writing an idea in sentence form, and constantly thinking about creating a piece of artwork, then most likely you're not an artist. You're just a person that likes to doodle. But a real artist is the person that wants to create and say something without words. We're actually, I guess, literary artists, except we don't use syntax. We use paintbrush strokes and pencil lines and form and shape and color. So, I don't, I do get artist block from time to time, but I stop thinking about artwork and I start reading, or I'll start watching something that I'm interested in, which now will spark a new idea. So, if you go 8, 9, 10 months and you don't have an idea of doing a piece of artwork, I would say you're probably not an artist. And it's time to find a new profession, because you are going to struggle at what you think you like to do. Because if you like to do what you like to do, and that's create artwork, then it's not work to you. It's that love of exploration, and that love of creating something that no one else has ever thought about, seen before, so.
Could we apply the word curiosity? You constantly have that curiosity, and that I'm going back to Ernie's word as well, to incubate ideas and gather that creative energy, creative passion, even.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's like Tony has curiosity, because when we're together, he was like, "Well, look over there. You see that piece of tile over there? You see that face?"
Let me tell everybody on me.
He constantly has that curiosity of looking for something in patterns in real life.
That's it.
Yep.
Yeah, you you fine tune your observation skills.
Yes.
You observe people, and you observe buildings, you observe nature, you look at all kinds of things. And when I say look, I mean, I mean seeing.
Right. Yes.
There's a
Right.
difference in looking and seeing.
See
When
it.
when I say when I'm looking, I just see something. It's just something there. But when I
Right.
say I'm seeing, I look at things in such a way that you can deconstruct, you break things down, you see patterns. Like if I am drawing a piece of architecture, a building or something like that, I start to see similarities. Where are the building lines? Where are the recessed areas?
Right.
What is the texture of the building? How do I center this section in here? All of those kinds of things, you start to break it down, and so you make it simplistic. I used to teach my students how to draw, say, a file cabinet, for instance. And I said, now you see how those lines come together, the lines that are parallel and so forth. I said, now draw it with the drawer out, and show me some folders in there. So understanding what you're looking at, just not drawing things that you don't know. It's just like writing. When I was in taking class in English, we had to do some writing, and we had to write about things that we knew, people in our neighborhood, family members and friends and so forth. And it's the same thing when you're painting or drawing. You have to work with things that you understand. If you notice people that do seascapes, painting skipjacks or boats and so forth. Now, a person that's a novice will paint a boat, and the person that has worked on the boat will say, they will laugh at it. So this is not right.
Right.
But they could draw that boat. They could tell you what each piece of equipment does and how it has to fit together. Well, that's what I'm talking about, learning how to see what's there and see how it functions. You can't do it without that. And when you draw a human being, you look at, oftentimes we used to use skeletons in the classroom. So you see the bone structure, you see how things happen, like in the face and the body and so forth. And then you have to put form to it. And that's what I'm talking about by seeing. And it's not something you do overnight. It's something that you have the urge to do, and you just keep working at that day after day, year after year, and so forth, and you refine it. Like anything else, it's like polishing a diamond in the rough. You keep working and working and working until it gets better. You'll make mistakes, but you keep working at it, and that's
Amen.
what you do if you're an artist. You keep trying to refine your skills.
And you need to spend time at the gym. And this is something I used to explain as a teacher. You need to go to the gym every day. If you go to the gym every day and you lift 25 pounds, your muscles are going to get better. Your biceps are going to get larger. Well, what I'm talking about, the gym, is a sketchbook. You spend 20 minutes a day in that sketchbook, and your eye-hand coordination gets better. Your mind processes accentuate, and you start seeing the world a little bit closer, because now you're working on observation. You're putting things down in that sketchbook that you actually see. You see how sunlight hits a flower that's coming up through the crack in the sidewalk. So you need to spend time in the gym.
Well, also, I believe motivation. You had motivation, inspiration, and how to stop waning. Motivation for me, I know I have a limited time. I only have a certain amount of time on this earth, and I'm trying to use all of it that I can and get out of me as much product as I could possibly get out of me. And secondly, along the lines of inspiration, I meet a lot of people. So by meeting people, they're constantly, if you listen to them, they're constantly giving ideas. People are constantly talking about themselves, um, their life, and things of that sort. So there's a lot of subject matter out there. And also, along the lines of stop waning, I write as much down. I picked up this book off of my library. Oh, make yourself a library. So I have these books, and now I keep them covered, but all of my notes and everything are in it. So all of my art is broken down as if I were doing a term paper. So all the things you're learning in college right now, just keep using, get the most out of your money. Keep using it, write it down, sketch it, whatever you need to do. Sometimes I have 5 or 6 napkins in my pocket because I've done
Yep.
sketches and things of people at restaurants. Sometimes I'll stop at a bus stop, or I'll just park my car and I'll ride the bus somewhere. Well, I don't during COVID, but I'll ride the bus for 2 or 3 blocks
Mhm.
because I've seen the person on that bus and they have just a very interesting structure about them or some type of character. And those things are they'll help you stay fresh, but it's really motivational to other people for them to be acknowledged, because sometimes you're the only one that's telling a person that I see you and I acknowledge you, and you are important, and you're worth being a part of history. And that's what I like to record. So I treat it as if I were a reporter, and you go into it with the same professionalism.
Okay. This is an interesting one, and I think it might not pertain to all of you, but there was definitely variations of this question that students brought forth. What are your thoughts on digital artistry and digital painters versus traditional art and media?
I'm going to answer that one.
I thought you might.
I've had more kids ask me the same question. Mr. Morris, do you think digital art is as valuable as I don't know, Michelangelo's work? And I always reference this. If Michelangelo was living today and he saw a new thing that he could use to create a piece of artwork, do you honestly think he's going to say, man, I'm going to stick with my paintbrushes? Or is he going to try that? He may like it and he may not.
That's right.
But the other thing you've got to think about, I think people devalue work that's done on the computer because they see artists as people that do physical work on canvas or paper or whatever, but they don't understand that when you're creating a piece of artwork in the computer, there's time in that creating that piece of artwork. I've done some pieces up to 85 hours worth of time on one piece of artwork. It's thousands of layers that have to be coordinated and stuck together. I actually paint with a stylus on my drawing tablet, so I think it's the same thinking process as doing a physical piece of artwork with physical materials. And if Michelangelo was here, he'd be sitting right beside me asking me questions about, well, how do you do this in Photoshop? So yeah, I think they're both valuable.
Okay. Anybody else want to chime in?
I think we shouldn't. I think that people should not limit themselves to what someone else thinks. So, I'm just not thinking about it. Unless you're paying me my going rate, I'm not really thinking about another person the way they think about my artwork. I'm just thinking about how am I going to get that particular job done, and how am I going to get what's in my mind out and on whatever surface it beckons for it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Artists work in many ways. And you even find artists that are working from automobile tires that are making some beautiful artwork. There's another artist that works with human hair. He goes around the barbershops and collects hair and creates hair artwork. There are incarcerated prisoners that do sculptures out of soap and do some magnificent things. And there are all kinds of things. People use shoe polish when they don't have like liquid shoe polish, when they don't have paints to paint with. And so artists use what's available. They may use tongue depressors. They may use popsicle sticks. They may use anything. So the medium is in itself is not the main thing is
It's
the
what you
artist
do with the medium.
able to make these connections and assemblages into something that is beautiful,
Yes.
and in a variety of ways. So, I wouldn't put too much emphasis on whether the digital or the conventional. They both have credibility.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
And you got to
that's
eat.
another medium.
And because, you know, knowing both helps you better in one end or the other. These young, look, these young people don't realize how important the internet is to them. They have broader, I mean, they have millions and thousands, I mean, of artists to look at. And because when we were coming up, we had magazines. We made books, pictures and all kinds of stuff. But because there weren't many magazines for Black folks, a lot of the paintings that were done started to look alike, like you were doing Ernie Barnes and you were doing pictures of Billy D. Williams, or they all started to get stereotyped. And then when you got more magazines, then the internet opened up. Wow. Now, and if you don't have a teacher, have you noticed how many people learn stuff on the internet, how to do stuff? Like if I don't know how to draw a hand, oh, let me go find an artist somewhere. Oh yeah, Ernie Satchel, he's available. Oh no, he's not right now. So they have more
Opportunities.
opportunities and resources. And I know some of the people say about digital art, you can push a button and turn a photograph into a watercolor real quick. And people who don't know have the knowledge that watercoloring on the computer may look, you know, people who do watercoloring and they learn how to do this with digital, then they do their watercolors. You can see a big difference between that kind of work. So I'm in for both.
Okay. All right, I'm moving on to the next question. If you were speaking to a senior and they shared that they don't have a passion to go to graduate school currently, what would you say are the benefits of going to graduate school, if that applies to anyone? And what would you say about the worth of that experience? Was it worth the experience? So I don't know if anyone has an advanced degree. A lot of times our students do struggle with, you know, do I need to continue on? Do I go to work? Do I, you know, is it necessary for me to get an MFA or a master's in teaching or something of that nature? Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
I do.
Okay.
I think you just keep going. Just keep going to school, because school is really forever. So you're going to want to take a class or course or something anyway, and it puts you in a higher income bracket. So you might as well just go and learn what you can learn as long as you can, and you can always you can always take a job in a different field, but just having that degree behind your name just it means a whole lot.
And I really think you need to do it right after you graduate from Delaware State or
Yes.
wherever you graduate from, but continue right after you finish your undergraduate work.
Yes.
And here's the reason why. It took me 10 years to get a master's. You understand? After I graduated, because I was so happy to get a undergraduate degree, I went out and started teaching. But then when I found out that the school system that I worked at would pay for my master's classes, then I'm like, okay, but hey, I'm going to do this. Took 10 years to get 30 plus hours. You understand what I'm saying? So if you're in the mode right now of school, don't get fed up with school right now. Go that extra year and a half, get it. And then you don't have to worry about life getting in your way.
Exactly.
Yeah, because life will get, believe me, life will get in your way.
Usually, as an undergraduate, you don't have the luxury of specializing, and so as an undergraduate, I was painting, doing sculpture, doing printmaking, doing leather crafts, all kinds of art forms. And my particular interest was in ceramics and sculpture. So when I went to graduate school at Towson, I was able to work in do metal sculpture. I was able to do clay modeling, and I was able to do all kinds of things. That's where I was introduced to reduction firing and raku firing. We started doing, and all kinds of things. And we came in contact with specialists in the field, what we didn't have as an undergraduate. So we had many professional sculptors and artists that were coming in to work with us on a limited basis. So it opened up a lot of doors, and I became very excited. And so when we had these specialists in, you know, I was like their shadow. I was there trying to, like a sponge, trying to pick up as much as I could, and trying to learn as much as I could. And I thought it was really an outstanding experience for me. Now, when you finish school, you never stop learning. Whether you go to school or not, you're always in the process of learning. What graduate school does is it speeds things up. It means that you're in a position to learn much faster, things much quicker. You can pick up things because someone has already paved the way and is able to share with you some of the things that you need to know. And that's why graduate school was so important to me. And I think I blossomed a lot from that. And so now I do all those things on my own. So I'm always doing trial and error things. Yeah, I make a lot of mistakes and everything. I learn from those mistakes. And the graduate school sort of pointed me in a direction.
Oh, I like that. Points you in a continues that direction, that forward progression.
Could I give another viewpoint?
You can.
The other viewpoint, going to graduate school would have been great, but you know, people have different situations. Like, for example, as soon as they get their degree, you better get to work and start paying Sam back his money. Then the other thing is, you don't know, some of these people might have been, they went to school. That was a great thing that they finished, and they might be barely making it. They might be living with grandmom or whatever, and they need to get out and do their job. Education was great, and we found out that later, if you get in a system, they pay for a lot of this stuff that you're doing, which they didn't tell us at school. But when you go out and get a job, a lot of these people didn't make it. They how can I put this? When we was at Delaware State, for example, we had people before our illustrious teacher, Mr. Vassals, and Mrs. Duff got there. They had no practical experience in teaching. They got all the education. Well, if we didn't have some of those people who had done practical stuff, we were dying. I mean, we were just, so my point of view is, yes, those classes are great, and you're going to get those because, you know, we got different degrees after we left Delaware State. But my biggest degree was when I went to school, and because I started teaching, and the women who were there thought it was so great that a man, period, was teaching art in elementary school. And he was a Black man too. And these women, there was no men, hardly, they bent over backwards to help you because they wanted you to succeed. That's where I got my big education in teaching and how to do it. And then all those other different classes, they tried to make you into a math teacher, English teacher, make you take all these different classes. But yeah, I think graduate school is great if you can do it. Okay, that's just my point of view.
What is a defining moment in your career that made you know art was ultimately the right choice? What is a defining moment in your career that made you know art was the right choice?
You mean in your career? You mean after or when
After
you started?
after you left and you went out at some point between the past 40 years, Tony, was there ever a defining moment where you went, oh, I made the right choice. This is what I was supposed to do.
Well,
I've always
didn't
known
take-
this was it for me.
it didn't take 40 years for me. Once I got out of school, and I always wanted to teach, and then I could teach people something that I liked. I said, this is where I'm going to stay. I was done.
Okay.
My defining moment was, I always knew I wanted to be a teacher, even in high school. I helped my art teacher teach art classes because I knew more than most of the students that were coming in there taking the class. And he said one day, he said, look, Mike, it's no use you learning this stuff because you already know all of this. Why don't you just help me out as a teacher's aide? So basically I was a teacher's aide in high school. I loved it. I went to Delaware State, but I think the most defining moment, I'm going to give you this one, is I had a student, my third year in school. And he came to me one day and he said, Mr. Morris, you're my guardian angel. And I asked him, I said, well, what do you mean by that? He says, well, you know, we had, and he always got picked on during lunch. And I would allow him to come to my class, eat his lunch, and we would sit and we would talk. And we talked about life. You know, his mom was on drugs and he was working, trying to, you know, support her habits so she would stay home and him not go into the child care system. And one day he just came to me, he says, you know, you're probably one of the only teachers that didn't take any of my mess. You made me listen. You made me learn something. You made me see life a little bit different. He says, that's why I call you my guardian angel. But now that's not the defining moment. The defining moment is 8 years after this kid graduated, he comes back one day and I'm sitting after school. He knocks on the door and he says, hey, Mr. Morris, can you remember me? And I remembered him. He says, I just want to thank you for being one of those teachers that made me do what I needed to do to get where I needed to go so I could be who I wanted to be. That's the defining moment for, I think, most teachers. When they get a student that comes back and says that to them, man, they'll teach anything to anybody.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that is very rewarding, again, initially I wanted to be an architect, and I have to go into Hampton Institute, it was then, and it was a private school. We couldn't afford that. So instead I attended Maryland State College and majored in art education. So I spent some time in the Navy, and when I got out the Navy, I was able to work with the Boeing company as an illustrator. And I thought the job was very exciting for the first 30 days. And after that, it became boring. You're sitting at a table, working on drawings and so forth. And then I thought more about teaching. So I decided to go back to school. I got my master's, and I was fortunate enough to get a job at Maryland State College, UMES now. And what I realized is that I was a people person. I wasn't designed to sit behind a desk and do something. I had to get out and do things. I like doing things with my hands. I like working with people and so forth. And I said, well, this is great. And I've never been so happy as I was doing my teaching career. I was able to work with people. I saw people grow. I learned from the students learned from me. And I think I helped a lot of people in their lives, as Mike was saying. I just got some on Facebook. Occasionally I get students that will call me, Mr. Satcher, you don't know how much you changed my life. And I said, I said, well, I did the best I could. And those things. And I see kids that will drop in, and one kid came in, you Mr. Satcher? So I said, yes. So you taught my mother. My mother told me to tell you that she said hello, and so forth. And so she speaks favorably about you all the time. And so, you know, those are the things that really pumps you up and makes you want to continue on, and makes you believe that you are doing something worthwhile. And not only teaching people how to create art, but teaching people how to become better people, better person, and become more productive in society. And I think that's the telling sign.
Mhm. Alex?
Well, I came into it a little differently, I guess, than most people. I had my own business for quite some time, and it sort of started because I could not seem to land a job within the art field in Delaware, and I took care of my mother early on. Um, so I needed to stay close. I needed to find a job in my field, and after applying in a few places and hearing some very rude people in the '80s and the '90s, um, some very rude statements like these computers are expensive. Um, we would need somebody to supervise you to make sure that the computers didn't walk away,
Mm.
things like that. I just I circled the block a few times around a design agency and I saw some boxes. They they got new computers and then I said, well, I walked in and said, I'll buy your old computers and I know you're going to get rid of them. How about give me a price? So I bought those old computers and then I rented a warehouse and I opened my first studio. That studio that was my first professional studio and it was a 20 2,900 square foot studio. um, I ran that for a while. I couldn't really find people to faithfully employ. So 9/11 happened, buildings came down, and I went indoors. I started teaching. So because I was teaching my staff anyway, so I started teaching sort of in the middle of the year. I realized what a great job teaching was, and I just kept teaching from there. And I keep a side business which I call teaching, and then I keep my art business, which I'll always do. That's pretty
I'm
much it.
I'm going to stop the questions there. Does anyone have any final comments or word? This whole thing has been really words of wisdom. I was going to say words of wisdom, but you have given us such lovely thoughts and motivation, and the real, what hit me is that while we might not have, as a teacher, as an artist, we are always teaching. If it's not sort of developing ourselves and learning things for ourselves, we're sharing our skills with the greater community and the K through 12 community. And what's been really rewarding for me to hear from you is how you've embraced your role as an educator, and that's so inspiring. And I hope that I feel that you've been able to communicate that the importance of being an educator and sharing your skills with our next generations. And supporting their creativity and their artistic life.
I would like to, I'm going to give you some words of wisdom from my grandfather. My grandfather worked as a sharecropper all his life. And I worked with my grandfather on the farm, I want to say maybe from age 8 until I got to high school. And one day we were working a watermelon patch and I had finished my row and it was lunchtime and I was sitting on a ditch bank. My grandfather came up and he always carried a gallon of water. And I was drinking a Royal Crown Cola soda in a bottle. And he said, Mike, are you finished with that bottle? And I said, yes, I am, Grandpa. He says, can I have it? and he stuck the bottle in the top of the ditch bank. He says, I'm going to teach you something today that I hope you never forget. And he took the water and he poured it at the top of the ditch bank, and it ran down past the bottle down into the ditch, right? He says, now, do you understand what you just learned? And I'm, smart aleck kid I was, I'm like, yeah, Grandpa, water rolls downhill. And he says, no. He says, water doesn't see obstacles. That bottle was an obstacle, but water will go around it, go under it, go over it to get to its destination. And I want to say this to your students. You don't let any obstacles get in your way. Think like water. You can go around it, under it, over it to get to where you need to get to in your life. And I think you'll have a good life.
I love
Beautiful
that.
words of wisdom.
It really
Yes.
was.
I'm gonna have to go. A couple of your students asked me a few questions, and I'll tell them this. Definitely make sure get your own library. Make your own library as you go. I set a certain amount of my resources aside by percentage that will allow me to grow. So educate yourself. Here's a book on business and legal forms
Oh, that's good too. That's very
for
good.
industrial artists and designers.
Mhm.
Here's another one called the graphic designers market. It's the artist market series. And there's something else. I hope he's on here. I call him Rich Kid, but he'll know who he is. This is the a grant support book, and it's called the Annual Register of Grant Support. So definitely, these are 3 books that are very good to have. So I have my own library. I continuously look to things. A lot of the books, such as the consulting books for dummies, small business books, and things like that, I use. But also, while I'm doing my artwork, I look at a variety of things. This is Black America Since MLK. It's on DVD. We have a thing, and Tony said this with YouTube and a lot of the social media. You can learn so many things. So the key is to never stop learning. I
Right.
think if you're not learning, you're not growing, and if you're not growing, you're dying. So stay motivated and definitely try to motivate others.
And one more thing, a lot of the students at Delaware State are in fine arts, right? And one thing I learned too late is don't sell any of your artwork if you don't have a photograph or a digital image of your work. And I'm going to tell you the reason why. I'm at the point now, I cannot sell one of my children without having a photograph of them to prove that that was created by me. So every creation that I come up with, I see it as giving birth. I'm giving birth to a new creation. That new creation has a title, and that new creation has an image, so that it's connected to dad. Okay, so that's one thing you also need to do. And like Alex was talking about the library, that's your digital library of your work. And you can always look back and see your growth, and that will also give you motivation to grow even more.
Documenting your work product is very important. I think
Yes.
we forget that, especially when we're very young and starting out, that to create that library of our own personal work,
Right.
and keeping accurate track of it and where it goes, even where
Yes.
it ends up, and that process. That's very important. You're correct.
Yeah.
And sometimes your experiences in life will catch up with where you need to be with that piece of artwork. So you have a great idea at age 20, but at age 40, you have enough experiences to start putting it on paper. You might not even finish that piece, but age 50, it's great to be 50 because you really don't care what anybody thinks anymore.
Right.
And you have the freedom to complete the experience and the journey.
Oh, I like
I
that.
have a question real quick. I know we got to go. When your students graduate, do they go into teaching, or are they just going out in the graphic arts field?
So, I mean, here at Delaware State University, we do offer art education degree, and then there's what's called a studio degree, a studio arts degree, and then there is a new media degree. So the students that Points of Juxtaposition have engaged with and interacted with are mostly thinking studio art majors.
Oh, okay.
I am a big advocate in supporting teaching, and you know, because there's roles as teaching artists, there's museum education, so there's a lot of things you can do post undergrad to really, as an educator, as an arts educator, that might not be that traditional K through 12 as well. But yes, I'm hoping that the chat that we've had today, I will make sure it's accessible to our art education degree students as well.
Okay. Do you have many who want to teach?
Do I see many that want to teach? Because in my capacity as the director of the Art Center Gallery, I get more of that hands-on internship arts administration
Well, do you hear
focus.
of, do you hear of any
Well,
who are going to teach?
And you also have arts residency you can do, you know, as a
Yes,
fine
I mean,
artist.
that's what a teaching artist like exploring that as well.
Yeah.
I like, in my capacity as an educator, I like to prepare students and explain to them that, you know, art education is, yes, it's K through 12. Yes, it can be higher ed, but it can also cover, you know, after school programs, public art, museum education, teaching artists, residency work. So there's a lot of ways to be an educator, because as creatives, you know, we don't have to follow that narrow focus as well.
Right.
What I've enjoyed about Points of Juxtaposition, and I don't know if Shiva, is that I like that the aspect that all of you are educators, and you've, over the course of your careers, value that experience and champion that experience, and you're wonderful role models for arts education. And I think we really did a nice job right now of sort of just sharing that, you know, education's powerful.
Yes.
You know? Education is powerful.
I'm sorry I have to go, but God bless you all.
Okay.
See you, Alex. Be
Bye,
good.
Alex.
All right.
Have a good day.
Oh,
See
Jennifer.
you later. See you later, Alex.
Yes.
I would like to pick up my work Monday, say around 10:30. Is that doable?
Yes, I'm gonna do a timeout right there, and I'm just gonna conclude this, and then we can chat so that I can
Okay.
splice that out.
Okay.
Thank you, Points of Juxtaposition. This has been wonderful. As we know, tomorrow is October 29th, and that is the culminating day of your exhibition here at Delaware State University. But it is my wish that this relationship continue into the future. Thank you so much.
Yep.
All right, now go, Tony. I mean,
No,
not
that
Tony,
was-
I mean, Ernie.
Ernie,
Yeah, yeah, I would like to come up at, say, Monday around 10, pick up the work around 10:30.
Monday, we're not available on Monday. It's
Oh.
Tuesday through Friday or Saturday.
Okay, I think, let me look at the next date here that I have.
Hey, Libby,
I
when
got a
did you
busy
take
week.
forward? Tuesday?
Mhm.
Okay. I'll do mine on Tuesday.
You want to come on Tuesday? You want to give me a estimated time?
Probably about 11. What time you get out of your class?
I have class, in-person class. I just have on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Okay, so I would say around 11.
On Tuesday. Let me pull up my calendar.
It's November the 2nd. right?
That's November the 2nd.
Yep, that works. I will put you in.
And Jennifer, I want to take the time to say thank you for all you've done.
It's been good. I've enjoyed
It's
this.
been good. It's been good. Yep. And it's, and
I
it's,
get very
and it's hard
sad.
to wrangle, and it's hard to wrangle in 6 old guys like us.
I get sad. I get very sad towards the end of exhibitions when they're leaving because, yeah, it's hard. It's very hard. And this has been very enjoyable. I think you've had wonderful things to share with the DSU community.
Yeah.
You know, I have my fingers crossed that we'll see things move and, you know,
Yep.
we'll stay in touch. Don't worry.
Yeah, we'll stay in touch. That's good.
Jennifer, the next date I have, that next week is horrible for me. It would be Saturday morning.
I can do Saturday morning. What time are you thinking Saturday morning?
10:30.
Yes, I have one question. If would you be flexible in doing Saturday afternoon if I had to switch to the afternoon?
Yeah.
Okay. I say that all because my son's playing his final tournament and in Georgetown, Delaware, and they haven't released the game schedule yet. And so if it's afternoon games, I want to try and get you in there early in the morning so I can make the games.
Mhm.
And if it's morning games, so thank you for that flexibility. I hate to miss tournaments for him. I only have him for 2 more years.
Okay.
Well, and family comes first. So
I'll know the schedule on Monday, Ernie, and I'll touch base with you.
Okay.
now the main question is, can we back up to the back door like we did?
Yes. Oh,
Okay.
definitely.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. For
Anybody?
Saturday would be fine for me too.
Saturday. I'll touch base with you as well.
Okay. So it's the same, it's Mike,
Somebody answer the phone for me, please. It's Dr. Tucci.
throw a shoe at him. But look, the same thing. This has been a experience for all of us with COVID and the whole electronic thing. So Mike knows that getting Tony involved in all this was
You did well, Tony.
it was an experience. I enjoyed it, and thanks for being so patient
You
with most
know,
of us.
COVID taught us all to be a little bit more, receptive to technology. And the great thing about, we got kudos here at DSU for the virtual artist chat and the QR codes and having Mike and Tony live at the reception. And it has me thinking that there's definitely elements of this post-COVID that I will continue because it broadens the range, the outreach. Even doing this Zoom, how hard would it have been to get you all back in person as well? Because you're in different areas and parts of the state and other states. And so this is a great way to be able to put something together that we can share. And technology allows us to do that. So,
Yep, and hopefully after COVID's over, we can have another art show and do it
more of a traditional way.
do it the live way. Yeah.
The live way. All right, I'm going to sign off, guys, because I got to
Okay.
figure out what they're starting to deliver artwork for the next exhibition.
Okay.
I will follow up with emails to everyone just to confirm your pickup deinstallation as well.
Okay,
I'll have
got one.
somebody call you.
I have one question. The Delaware Art Museum, did they come down and see the show?
They're coming tomorrow.
They're coming tomorrow? Okay.
Tomorrow at 11. They're coming tomorrow at 11. In fact, while we were chatting, I saw a email come through about extending our exchange and having lunch.
Okay,
Oh,
good.
okay.
All right,
So
great.
yes, I will do my best. I can't
Okay.
guarantee anything, but I will do my best. By the way, if you have a chance and you're in North Wilmington, the Afro-American Images 1971 exhibition, The Vision of Percy Ricks, it's good.
Yeah.
It's really, really
Yeah.
good.
Okay.
Very
I'll
proud.
have CW call you about his time too.
Okay.
All right.
I'll track him down. Goodbye, guys. Thank you so
All
much.
right, all right,
Thank
bye-bye.
you. Take care.